and also a lovely introduction to all the work that December has been doing in the city of St. Louis and a lot of the cities where they've been putting on events. And when I told a boyfriend of mine that I was giving a reading with December Magazine, they said, "Oh, those events are awesome." So, I mean, your reputation certainly precedes you, and I'm very glad to be here tonight. Thank you for coming out. I'm going to start with a new poem that is hopefully going to clear the air for everybody else. It's been a rough month for a lot of people, myself included. And, okay. So this poem I wrote back in March, and it's still here, which is wonderful. I thought it was like, oh, this would just be a poem. You know, it'll be one of the poems that kind of falls into the role of being a poem that does what it does, but it's never gonna have the legs to stand on. I was wrong, and well, I'll let you be the judge of that. This poem is titled "Reading Machiavelli," and it is for Trump. Oh yeah, we're going there.
Yeah.
Hollywood vouched for the upstart Italian-American gangsters decades ago. But now it's trash day. So I'm rushing to meet the beast-like truck whose arm reaches out to grab and lift and shake. Plastic bags fall soft as goose-down pillows and sag into the pile with the same aggrieved sigh my grandfather gave as he sank into the couch after his last Christmas dinner. My grandfather, who was not the Don or emperor of anything, listened to Huey Long tell the whole world that every man was a king, and then sat at the head of his own table like one until he died as all men do. Corleone, Borgia, Genovese, Soprano, the names irrelevant. There is always another rising up and claiming a throne to hoist himself upon. Always this same ruthless hunger that devours those who are foolish enough to try and feed it. Always the garbage heap of poverty from which he rises to rule his small piece, to plant his name and slaughter the Senate and threaten to trample the weak. Always he steps into the role of anti-hero and becomes a villain whose ring we can't help but vow to kiss. Nice there. Kiss if you want. This next poem has nothing to do with Trump. It's called Cold Pastoral. This deadbeat wife-beater's busted mugshot got pasted to a billboard because the local shale boom brought a slew of hard-luck drillers suffering from the lonely, unchecked tapping of a dozen flowback pits by noon, Cappy's diner for a quick lunch, and back to pump another day done, until on come formaldehyde dreams, until his wife wakes up with a busted lip and outlaw shit on the radio somewhere other than Sweetwater, Eden, or Rock Springs, telling herself this life is good enough for who it's for, and come noon she thinks about her father, a lifelong ranch manager who propped her up behind the wheel at age 6 while he kicked haystacks off the back of a flatbed pickup, bumping along in a field that nobody but a pint-sized girl whose feet were there to touch the pedals. Thinks of the heifer they once slowed to watch calving off by herself, how hard labor came on and woke the valley with her broken lowing, how everything that happened that day seemed to happen of its own accord. While they sat parked next to a river a horse could cross with one step. I was in crack land recently, driving through that great swath out west where they're doing that sort of business. And the interesting thing is you see, like, where we see billboards. Missouri is famous for them if you drive 44 anywhere, and 40 as well, but 44 especially, heading towards Jeff City and stuff like that, you're going to see just these amazing billboards. Well, in these little towns in Wyoming, you see like mugshots of people like, do you want to be like this guy? Do you want to explain to your kid why you need your wife? It's like really weird. Like, well, no, I guess it's not weird because there's a reason that causes it. Okay, I'm going to read 2 more poems. Okay, and actually the first poem, my wife wanted me to read a wolf poem, and as poet in residence at the Endangered Wolf Center, I feel it incumbent upon me to do so. But for once, I'm not going to read my own wolf poem. I'm going to read a poem by James Cruz, who is reading tomorrow night with River Styx reading series at the Contemporary Art Museum, which is in Townsend. And I would advocate that if you were brave enough to come out tonight, then maybe see if you're brave enough or your schedule is free enough to come out another night, perhaps tomorrow. This poem is called Becoming the Wolf, and it's from his new chapbook, which will be on sale as well. Drinking from the creek after his meal, scavenge from one of the frozen elk, the wolf knows the body tells 2 stories. I want, I need. And ponders the difference as he stalks back to his den, where his throat will throb with a long song sent to the sky to say, you are not so alone, you cannot be saved. Tonight the wind is a dull knife crying for the whetstone, prying at the windows. Icicles like flutes slip from the eaves and carve their own throats in snow. Thin hollows that clutch will fill before a voice can take hold. I cannot sing to the moon using notes it knows, or look with eyes that catch the right light to hunt by. So I must huddle in this blanket cave, scrape of stringy words stuck in my teeth, cold flesh that must be ripped bit by bit from the ribs of stranded, helpless things. Finally, I'll read the poem that is why I'm here. And thank you again, everybody, for showing up to this. I mean, standing room only, get out of town. That's wonderful. I'm pleased to be reading with the folks that are coming after me, so please stick around. And I believe they have issues for sale, so I would also advocate for that. Support your local magazine, all right? This poem is called Maya Angelou in Yoga Pants. It really doesn't need too much prefacing other than to say that we live 2 lives. Usually there's this young life where we are full of this certain energy, and then there's a second life which is full of a different energy. I tended to know Maya Angelou's work in her second life, but she had this first life, which was, to those who knew her, like Eugene Rendon, who's the poet laureate in East St. Louis, who was a friend of hers, was wonderful. It starts with an epigraph from her poem, Still I Rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? That young student in yoga pants across the quad must know the quadratic equation solves only so much. That the volume of a single sweat bead can be easily measured in the abstract falling of a pencil on paper in the workbook she's tucked snugly into her satchel and slung over one of her shoulders. But she's half a football field away, so her course load is pure speculation, whether she's met the prereqs or even if she's a student here. It's anybody's guess. As I drove to campus earlier today, Maya Angelou's good friend Eugene Redmond said over the radio that she would often call him after a reading to say, "My brother, I brought all of my female equipment to that stage," which is an attempt to excuse, or at least to explain why in this quad right now I'm thinking of you, Maya, in such a form-fitting way. So little left to the imagination, and I'm not ashamed, even though I'm entirely unsure whether you would have worn such a thing as yoga pants. But today, I say, why not? April trees look agog and heavy with pollen's gravity, while tulips are unctuously hoarding noses on the breeze. I know this community college is no more Harvard than I'll ever be, but Maya, why not slip into the context of this scene? That young student remains affixed to the prow of a ship which sails across noon toward the parking lot, and you, Maya, still wear the holy robes your voice once wove into being. That smudge of hot pink chalk on the sidewalk, well, that's me. Half erased by last night's drizzle, washed the rest of the way out by the unlikely presence of you. Thank you.